You called me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep. My faith will stand, and I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace.
Hello, hello, hello.
And you are mine.
I hope everyone is having an amazing day.
Your grace abounds beneath these waters. Your sovereign hand be my guide.
Just bear with us for a few more minutes. We're trying to get some technical difficulties taken care of. I hope that you all, as you're waiting, I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope that all of the mothers having an amazing Mother's Day, early Mother's Day tomorrow, and we want to honor our mothers. And you guys are simply amazing. And I want to just say I appreciate all of the mothers, because without mothers, none of us would be here. I am excited about day 2 of the Whole Child. We will get started shortly.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you guys doing today? As you're coming on, I was trying, I just got caught up for a second. I was looking at, I want to make sure that you can see us okay, you can hear us okay. I don't see anybody's on right now on the private training page. So we're going to give a few more minutes. I know sometimes these notifications act a little crazy, and we will get started. And then I see we are on YouTube, and you have joined us on YouTube. Thank you so much. If you're just getting on and this is your first time, I'm Shanika Wingfield. This is Reggie Wingfield, and we are your hosts and your trainers for the Whole Child Training, Development, Discipline, and Destiny. This is part 2. We're so excited. We want to make sure that, can you see it yet? Oh yeah, you can see it. I don't know why I can't see it on mine. So I can make sure we can see the comments and the questions. And please, if you need a certificate, we have certificates available. They are beautiful, might I add. And oh, that's neat. I see that. Maybe that's just your phone. Hey, they have new things on Facebook now. You can see the what is it called? The captions. Okay. I can't see it. I don't know what's going on. I can't see it because I want to make sure that we're facing the camera so you can see us. And we are going to pick up from where we left off last Saturday. We are going to be starting in the manual on page 12. I probably don't need all this, but I want to make sure that I can see it okay. And then I'm going to turn this music off because I can't see it. See, it says new activity. And I can't see it. This is weird. A few more minutes and I'm going to just say, forget it in a second. And so I can see, I want to be able to read your comments and see who's on. It's still, it does, but I can't see who's on that. Just the comments pop up, so it'll be just a general. Everybody doing okay today? So internet start and stop. Oh my goodness. I don't know why it's saying that today. Stay with us. Stay with us. Don't. Let's see. I thought I had it on.
Bear with us a few more minutes. We're going to get this.
It's always like that when you're doing and everything. It seems like that's what it was. You want to type in the whole child training group that we are. There we go. Okay, done. Type that we'll be on in just a second. We're trying to get the proper. No, not on the live because it's canceled. So on the training page.
Okay. Oh, that is the training page, right?
Yeah, not on the live though.
Okay, help me out.
Groups. Are you not on the? Not even. Okay, we are still on, and I don't know why it keeps saying. Can you guys see us and hear us okay? Because it keeps slowing down on my end, and I want to. We're frozen on my end. Streaming to Facebook. Can you see us? Can you guys hear us okay? I'm having trouble hearing. Is this an issue on my end? Hopefully. Can you hear anything that I'm saying? I'm going to stop it and then come back in and see if that'll help.
We do apologize for any inconvenience. We're going to try to get this issue rectified as quickly as possible.
That's why I couldn't see it, because you weren't even, and this is on my own YouTube, but you weren't even a part of the page. Oh, it's on the wrong page. That's why. Okay. I'm going to keep going, keep talking to them, and I'm gonna have to quickly put my phone on because you're not on the training page
She said it sounded distant and a tiny bit.
because I was on the training page on here. You're not on the training page on the camera, so you can't get on. Your phone's not connected to the training page.
You just did.
No, I just did it, but it's not coming up on the Mevo yet.
She said, I can't hear RC, Jessica.
Yeah, because I got to take this off.
And put the phone on.
Because you're not on the page. You're an admin. I thought you had already.
I thought I did too.
Well, there you go.
What?
That you were a part of the problem. Now this is 2. Okay.
Okay. All right, again, we do apologize for any inconvenience. We're going to...
There we go. Now see if she can hear. Everybody can hear.
Okay, what about now, guys? Can you guys all see and hear us okay?
You should get your notifications or go ahead and get on the Whole Child Training group on Facebook, the private group.
Yeah, make sure.
And you should be able to hear us. And everybody who's on YouTube, I do apologize, with these technical issues.
Technology. It's not always cooperative, but we're going to get through it.
No, it's not. And this is why you guys get an additional hour of because of these complications can happen. Let me get this out.
All right, we'll wait to hear back if they can see and hear us.
Let me see now. That's why I say, why am I not seeing it on the Training Child page? And we should be golden. Good morning. Can you see? Here we go. I think we're in there now. Now let me get myself on the camera. Whew. Okay.
All right. Good morning, Nakia. What about now? Can you guys see and hear okay? Let us know.
Okay, come on.
And once you all let us know, we'll go ahead and get started.
We'll wait till, there we go. That's why. Well, I tell you, you learn stuff. Make sure you're, okay, yes, come on in. Thank you. So we're going again, we are Shanika and Reggie Wingfield. We are the trainers and the creators of the Whole Child, you can see it, Development, Discipline, and Destiny Training Manual, a slew of other installments. This is part 2 of our training. We had a great time with y'all, and hopefully you guys got some really good nuggets in the first part of the womb to birth to 1 year old, and the training years. It seemed like we stayed a long time on the training years, 2 to 3 years old, because that's such a fantastic age and development. And so, like I said before, we do have a certificate available. So if you all need a certificate, or if you just want one, they're beautiful. We can see it's going to be a PDF, of course, and then you can print it off at home. We'll send it to you through your email. So if you have not already, email me at the wholechildtraining@gmail.com and tell me if you haven't already. Told me that you need a certificate. I have a list of the ones who have already confirmed with me that they do need a certificate for your job or what have you, or just to have. And so as more people come on, let us know that you can hear us okay, that you can see us okay. And we are going to get started. We got so into it last Saturday that we didn't get as far as we would like. But also remember that this is a manual. You can write in it. There's places for your notes. You can scribble in it, carry it around. It's very important that you do that. You might need to pull something out and say, I remember the trainer said this, and we'll give you guys, I know the people who are on YouTube watching, we so appreciate your patience this morning. Technical difficulties, you have systems set up. And I mean, this is exactly what we talked about in part 1, meaning you have to be flexible. You have to be patient in these transitions. And then in this transition this morning, we had to change one camera for the next. Thank you guys so much. Blessings, everybody. Hi, Terry and Nakia, and everybody who's on. Thank you. And I think hopefully I can't see my phone now. So I think it was Victoria who said, that was on another page, that was on the whole child training on your comments. That's your comment section that you can hear. Ruby, hopefully you can hear us now underneath the actual thing right here. Yeah, so you can hear us okay. And yes, morning technology, absolutely. I mean, listen, if we were in a training and you guys, I mean, physically there with you and something happened with our PowerPoint presentation, we would have to just kind of step back. But isn't this like parenting? You got to just kind of step back and reevaluate. You can't get flustered. You can't get upset. You just got to be like, listen, I thought he was on the, his system with the iPad was on the whole child training group, the private group, and it wasn't until I clicked. Why I cannot see us on? Because he wasn't even on his iPad. So I had to change we are very vulnerable and transparent people. I just had to change the whole system quickly. And so here we are. So today,
so with that thought process, as my wife was saying, just like parenting, isn't it just like parenting when there are so many unpredictables in your life?
Right.
But the key to the whole child is, and I was thinking about this even before we were getting on, the key to remember, one of the primary things to remember in the whole child is that sometimes things beyond our control as adults happen. We get it, we understand it, but then our children don't get it and the children don't understand it. And oftentimes the parent, just kind of takes that frustration or the lack of being able to handle that properly or to maneuver through that process professionally, for the lack of a better term. I think that everybody just kinds of whoever's in your path just kind of receives a little bit of the frustration. But it's so important to be able to first recognize that you're frustrated, take a moment, take a couple of deep breaths, reevaluate the situation, and then kind of come back. Sometimes situations will calls for us to quickly assess the situation and then jump back into it. So, but whatever you got to do to kind of get yourself in that mode, don't allow frustration to dictate, how you respond to other people.
Absolutely. And it's difficult. It's easier said than done. And so, but I think if you just offer an explanation almost to your frustration, then it's easier for your children. Like just a couple of days ago, I am just stretched to the limit. We are still on a stay-at-home order. We have 4 children. And we have been stuck in the house, and it's been cold in Charlotte in May, and I don't know what's going on with that. It's raining. We got some issues in our townhome, and just the frustration. And I just said, listen, I just need you guys to listen because I'm stressed out. I'm stretched at this moment. I just want you guys to listen to mommy, follow my instructions the first time. It's not their fault that mommy has a lot going on, but they just need to understand. And when you offer some type of explanation, it's better for them as well. And then we also have to get out of the mindset that our little people can't handle a frustration, or that they are not due an explanation. You know, we grew up with that mindset. This is adult situation. You don't need to tell a child this or that, but that's not necessarily true or correct. In certain instances, it's okay to say there's a lot going on. You might not understand the depth of what's going on, but I can offer you this explanation. I believe if we are look at our children as little people instead of people who are children who are insignificant, then it would be better all around.
Yeah, you know, don't allow the people that you love and are responsible for to be the source of your frustration, because in many instances they didn't cause the external things that are beyond our control in the first place. You know, external things, you know, like weather, external things like the COVID-19 that we all have to make the proper adjustments to, and that we have absolutely no control over.
Absolutely. So that's a great segue into turn to your manual to page 12, and we'll pick up from there. 4 to 5 years old, the pre-kinder years. I mean, this is the years that you have to be most patient. They're learning, they're exploring. And it says it's time for school. What gratitude will your children's teacher have when they come to school prepared? Pre-kinder and kinders will be scary for parents and children, but having them equipped and ready for school will ease some of the pain. You know, ready in 4 ways. This is what we always say: socially, emotionally, physically, and academically. For one of our children, well, actually 2 now, but our oldest daughter, she is, you know, she's late in her birthday. So October's her birthday. So she had to wait an extra year to go to school. Now, academically, she was already ready because as you all know, you know, I taught pre-K. So I made sure that our children were very equipped at home before they turned 3. They colors, numbers, alphabet, they can recognize them, read them, small words, all those things prepare them for pre-K. But what we lack, and so with that, JL was academically ready. All of our children were academically ready for kindergarten and even first grade. But socially, are they ready? Emotionally, are they ready? Physically, are they ready? And so with JL, since her birthday was later, everybody, you know, even encouraged, why don't you guys skip her up academically? She might be bored in the classroom. But what I noticed is that socially and emotionally, she wasn't ready. And I say that because she was dealing with kids older than her all of the time. So they allowed her to be in those settings and almost kind of, she was around kids 4 and 5 years old. She would have difficulties in transitioning with friends and can you play with me and all those things. And so keeping her in her right grade academically helped her socially and emotionally. And so when she got to kindergarten, when she got to first grade, academically, I mean, she's in gifted classes in second grade now. So she's always above, but she is right on target socially and emotionally. And I believe that's very important, that those 4 ways you can get your child ready: socially, emotionally, physically, and academically. And if you see that they're lacking in one area, then you have to fulfill those needs. You have something to say there?
And also, too, again, just so that I can, you know, make this kind of current time, you know, we're all experiencing the COVID-19 epidemic. And one of the things through the process of, you know, continue learning and continue education, you know, the teachers kind of sometimes had to remind the parents that this is a big transition for the children also. Mm-hmm. You know, they are accustomed to schedules. They're accustomed to getting up at a certain time. They're accustomed to eating breakfast at a certain time, leaving the home at a certain time. And so their little 4 or 5 year old minds, you know, they don't really fully understand the ramifications of COVID-19 and stay at home orders and governors issued orders and things of that nature. But I think it's important to kind of prepare them, as she was saying, socially, emotionally, to the level, explain it in a way where they understand, where they get it. You know, maybe, I mean, you don't have to articulate it like you would to another adult, but kids need answers. You know, when they're frustrated, when they don't understand, they don't need to know or understand certain things about finances going on in the home and the jobs and how this has adversely affected you financially. But what we could do as parents is to kind of say, hey, some things happen, as my wife stated earlier, so that we can explain it to them socially on the level they can get it, emotionally on the level they can get it. So that's just so that'll help ease your stress levels, and it'll also help ease the children's stress levels as well.
Absolutely. And so let's go to 2 to 3 step directions. We talked about this last week at birth to 1 year old, how 1 to 2 step directions start, and then you can gradually add more steps. At this age, you definitely need to be doing 2 to 3 step directions. Depending on the maturity of your child, they can be doing more. And I can say that for our 2-year-old, he's 2. He just turned 2 in October. And I can give him 2 or 3 step directions, and he's 2. So I can say, go to the kitchen and get you a snack. And he'll go to the kitchen, he'll open up the pantry, and he'll get a snack, and he'll come back to me and ask me to open it. So that's really 3 step directions. And so you need to make sure that your child between the age of 4 to 5 can do 2 to 3 step directions. And if they are having some type of delays, then you just practice that with them. Do it more. I mean, and make it fun. Say, okay, there's a lollipop in the bathroom. I need you to go to the bathroom, get the lollipop, and bring it to me. Go to the bathroom, get the lollipop, and bring it to me. That's 3 step directions, right? And so you can increase their attention in that. Did you want to say anything to that?
No, I'll just say, the idea is, remember, in the training phase, part 1, we were talking about how you have to be intentional about telling them, affirming them, telling them how good of a job that they're doing. Why? Because we want them to repeat the behavior, right? Give them a high five, do whatever you need to do. And now we're not suggesting that you fill your children up with sugar, because they're already the little humans are already full of balls of energy. So you can do alternate, healthy snacks, or just, again, give them some type of some level of motivation to, again, so that they can continuously do the desired 2 to 3 step learning processes, so that it can be reinforced.
Absolutely. And so with that, we talked about the SIT training last week. And then also, so now in the 4 to 5 years old, the SIT training is advanced. And then when we get to school age, it'll even be more advanced. So SIT training, as we briefly talked about last Saturday, it's just really getting your children to sit down for a little bit of time, a time that's acclimated to their age and whatever you're doing that piques their interest. And then when we talk about school age, we'll talk about it without electronics, because a lot of times in this electronical age, we give iPads or tablets or whatever as babysitters, because we don't, as parents, realize that our children can sit down for a period of time without an electronic. We didn't have electronics growing up, and the times are not that different, meaning we were taught to sit down, play a game, get checkers, read a book, do a crossword puzzle, whatever have you, without a device. Is what I'm trying to say. Without a device. And you can do that at 4 to 5 years old. This is the best time to start training them to sit down and be to have attention on something, because in school they're not on electronics. So you want them to be best prepared for kinder or pre-K. Our children's the elementary, the class K through 3. So K through 3rd grade do not use electronics to do their work. 4th and 5th graders do have Chromebooks, and they're pretty much on them most of the day. But like I said, K through 3rd grade is not. And so we don't want them to be used to sitting down for 8 hours a day with some type of electronic device in their hands. And so also with potty training, this is a good time for nighttime accidents. So don't be frustrated. Don't punish your children for nighttime accident. Like I said in the beginning, sometimes night training can last up to 10, 11, 12 years old. And then based on their history, like with adoptive children who have suffered with molestation or sexual abuse, those types of things can trigger nighttime accidents. So you have to be very sensitive to your children. And like I said earlier, one of our children, he's 6 now, and if he has an accident in the middle of the night and he wakes up, his whole morning and day is almost like shot. So as parents, it's our responsibility to make sure that when they wake up, they had the best foot forward. So if you have to get nighttime underwear, if you have to get a nighttime pad for the bed for the child, or nighttime pajamas, or whatever type of pee therapy, they have pee therapy out there to help your child be best in the morning, then I will recommend doing it. And this is also a time for learning through play. And this also will help you to get your child off of electronics. I am an advocate for learning through play. Let's build forts in the living room. Let's have a campsite. Our children love to build forts. They will pull all the chairs from the dining room. They'll get all the sheets off the bed and the blankets and they would even set up their little tablets if they're allowed to have electronics. They only can have electronics on Saturdays and Sundays and special occasions. And so they will put up their little tablets and say, these are our TVs in they call their forts houses. And just the imaginations, and even, they like to play McDonald's, or, what's your order? And then our 2-year-old say, I need some chicken nuggets and French fries, please. And so they're learning through play how to be social, how to be emotional. Oh, I dropped my chicken nuggets on the floor, my daughter would say, and TJ would say, oh, we have more cooking. So they're learning to be social. They're learning to be emotional with their peers, physically and academically, through their play. Do you have something to say about learning through play?
And little Reggie, my namesake, oftentimes says that he'll hit us with, but Daddy, I'm bored.
Oh yes.
And he just turned 6, so don't allow kids to dictate or determine what needs to happen next. You're the parent. I want to empower you to say, okay, whatever structural issue, whatever structure you have in place, to stick to your guns. It's not, unfortunately, sometimes my mother would say to us growing up, kind of figure it out. I say, as being in the field, my wife and I, for over 20 years, I say, be creative. And that will be the perfect time to engage them. If your kid tells you that they're bored, read a book.
That's the first thing I say. Go get a book and read. Well, I don't want to read. Well, go play.
And as a parent, you can make it fun, but you're also reinforcing behind the scenes. You're actually reinforcing reading comprehension
and skills,
social skills, different things of that nature. Having them give you the details of the story. You're in essence preparing them for higher learning and preparing them to transition from the home to school.
Absolutely. And so it's very important that they get those social skills learned even through play. Like Jermaine put, TJ burnt my burger. Yes. Okay. So when I tell you I've eaten all kind of plastic burgers and French fries and salads and tacos and all of that, they're learning to be social. And then you also can teach, make sure you bring mommy some fruit and some vegetables because I want to stay healthy. So all those things are important as you're playing with your children. And I know we don't have mounds of time to sit down and teach, and because our households are working machines. And so you want to make sure in every situation, in everything that you do with your children, no matter what the age, that you're putting in those skills. And just like, for instance, our children are upstairs watching a movie right now while we're doing this training. And I gave my oldest a schedule. I said, at this time, I want this to happen. At this time, I want this to happen. So I'm teaching him responsibility. And he's going to be in middle school in the fall. He's going to have to watch the time because he's not going to be in the same classroom all the time. He's going to have to go from one class to the next. And so he's going to have to pay attention to the time. So we slip those skills in wherever we can to make sure that they're really equipped, right?
And, I think I have a little bit of a reserve, if I be honest, about him. First of all, my oldest son, he's growing up. He is transitioning, and he is going to have more responsibility. So this is going to be a challenge for him, but it also is going to give him an opportunity to learn. And like my wife was saying, they're not going to sit in the same classroom. They're going to transition from class to class.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go on with the next one. This is my favorite one. No filter, Susie. Listen, These 4 to 5-year-olds, anybody under 6 years old, they have no filter. So what I want to teach you on today is not to disregard what they're saying, but teach them how to be socially acceptable and socially nice, culturally sensitive. And when I say no filter, hopefully your names are not Susie or Susan, but you understand what I'm saying. You know, if we're and your child says, "Oh, that person is fat," you know, they have no filter. So you have to teach them, listen, little Susie, listen, little Johnny, calling somebody fat might hurt their feelings. So we have to teach them the emotional side of it, the social side of it, but then also physically. So that's why we reiterate, well, we have to make sure we eat our vegetables, we eat our fruit, we drink our water so that we can be healthy and strong. Okay. And then academically, you know, it's just like we have to teach them that, because when they're at school, they can't call their friends fat. You know, you just can't do it. So you have to connect all those ways of being ready to be school age in one instances. And I know, you know, we want our children to be honest with us, but we also want to temper that by being socially acceptable, socially sensitive, culturally sensitive, and
Yeah, you just can't walk around, you know, hurting people's feelings.
No.
And again, they're still developed. They're in their early
no
stages.
filter stage.
Right. They're still in their early stages of development. And so they don't know any other way but to be, you know, how they're wired to be at that moment. But we can definitely impart and teach them and train them, as my wife said, that they're not to go around hurting people's feelings. That's not nice. And so that's an opportunity for us to really, really just to teach them.
And we see so many, and I can give you this, and then we're going to move on because I want to make sure we get completely through the training. I think I said this earlier, but we were putting some things in a storage unit, and there was this woman. She appeared to be a woman. She had on a dress, she had on heels. She was like 6'2", so she was really tall. But when she talked to us, she had the voice of a man. Well, she was a man. She was in transition, and so I think it was our daughter at the time. She was like, "Is that a man?" And I had to say, you know, JL. It is a man, but she is wearing women. She wants to be a woman. I mean, I had to pull out every compassionate, loving, thing to tell her in an age appropriate way. You know, you don't talk about people. You're not mean to anybody because they choose to dress one way. And so you just have in those moments. And it was loud enough for the lady to hear it. And so I wanted her, without saying something to her directly, indirectly hear me correct and teach my daughter. So it wouldn't make them feel upset or embarrassed, but that people do care, people are compassionate. And even as believers, because we're believers, you might not believe this way. We do believe in God. We do believe in the Bible. And we have to be loving and kind and gentle, no matter what state somebody is in, no matter what decision somebody has made for their life. We have to teach our children to be sensitive, especially at this age, the kinder age, because they are going to school and they will see and hear all kinds of things. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that they are sensitive to those things. Anything else? Okay, so let's move on. I get so many questions and so many, what chores do you give 4 to 5-year-old? It depends on their maturity. It depends on who they are. But listen, these little hands, these little humans can help you around. If you develop a culture and an environment in your home, that this is our home. This is not just mommy and daddy's house. This is our home. So we have to collectively take care of it together. At 4 and 5, they should be able to make their beds, take out the trash, take stuff out of the dishwasher, put stuff up. Our 5-year-old, or he's 6 now, we have learned with him that he has to have specific tasks. I can't just say, go upstairs and clean your room, little Reggie. I have to say, go upstairs, make your bed up, put the socks away, match the socks and put them away. I have to give him specific directions. So if you see your 4 to 5-year-old not being able to wash the table off, sweep the floor, pick up the trash by saying, go clean up the kitchen, you have to make sure that you can give them specific ideas. So Reggie knows on Saturday morning, his job is to take out all the trash in the bathrooms and then put new trash liners in there. He also knows that he has to match the socks and put the socks in the sock bin. I can't just say, okay, it's Saturday cleaning, go do this. At this stage, you have to give them specific jobs. This is our home. It's your responsibility as well as ours to keep this good. On to the next. I love this quote. It says, during the preschool years, a child's ability to understand others' emotions begin to grow. Yes, you have to know that this is a time that we have to stick those things in. Okay, so electronics at 4 to 5. Oh, I know. Don't throw the phones at me. Don't get upset with us in these trainings. But, we do have to limit our the screen time. And if you are a parent that has screen time every day, and you want to go to 2 times a week, it's okay to do it cold turkey. We did it. One time they were on their electronic devices for a small amount of time, but they were on it every day. And I was like, oh no, they're not listening. When we saw the difference when we told them to get off and they had a fit, we was like, oh no, we stopping this today. We shut it all the way down. And we said, no longer will you be on your electronics every day. You will only be on your electronics the S days, Saturday and Sunday. And so when we implemented that new rule, we saw on Saturday and Sunday, and that's if they've been great during the whole week and they followed instructions, they were great in school, they didn't have any issues. Then on Saturdays and Sunday, and probably Friday night, they can get on their electronics. And what we notice is that when we told them to get off of it on Saturdays and Sundays, they weren't fussing, they weren't upset, they didn't have an attitude, they didn't have an issue. They just put them away and went and play with their toys.
Absolutely healthy, being able to set some healthy limitations with electronics, and then so there is some research out there that's saying it's not good to have the kids on electronic devices for extended periods of time.
For anybody.
So again, I feel like in my line of work we deal with a lot of people who parents that don't really know how to set limitations, and they don't really know how to adequately address the situation of electronics because, and I don't want to go ahead of myself, but we will talk about this a little bit later, how teenagers, they have a hard time to really, they live on those electronics. They think that that's their whole lives. But limiting electronic, it has been definitely beneficial in our household.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, we'll talk about that in the teenage years, but also you can implement this now. If you have teenagers, put that phone away at the table. As adults, if we're out on a date, if we're even at home, if we're eating dinner, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, our phones are not on the table. We are not looking at it because it's really just rude and disrespectful to be sitting here. And so you have to teach your children at this stage. Mommy and daddy don't have their phones at the table. We are engaged with each other. We're talking. We're communicating as a family. And so this is a stage to do it. And this is a great segue for this. Listening ears. I love listening ears. As a former teacher, listening ears, I will always say with our children before they go to school, I would do this, click, click, make sure those listening ears are on, because I know you can listen and do exactly what we ask you to do and exactly what your teachers are asking you to do. So make sure those listening, click, click are on. And if they're not listening, I always say, wait a minute. Let me see if those batteries are working. And do you have lizards in those ears? Are those bunny rabbits in those ears? And they have cut off the battery of those listening ears. So we always have to encourage them to make sure they're listening, make sure they're following. It's more of an encouragement because, again, their attention span is not that long. That doesn't mean they cannot listen. It means we have to encourage them to listen more.
Absolutely. And, we have this thing, and I do this as a trainer, even with adults, and it's very effective. Give you guys a free tool. It's very effective when you want a kid to be redirected and to listen. I would say, or what I do is, if you can hear me, clap once.
Yep.
If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. eventually when everybody, if the people that weren't paying attention are not listening, it redirects them to say, okay, what's going on? So that's a very effective tool to kind of implement in your home.
Absolutely. So let's go on to page 13. School-age children are in a unique position to learn and develop rapidly in this stage in their lives. So again, ready in 4 ways: socially, emotionally, physically, and academically. Now you're in school, and now you're little Susie's not my friend anymore. So how are we going to tackle that? Emotionally, again, we always have a ton of stories because we are really in this thing. We're watching our children develop. We're watching how we're training, teaching, implementing things in their little lives. And so with my daughter, this little girl in her classroom who they've been really good friends has said something not nice to her, and she was devastated. And I said, so what did you do? She said, well, I just don't want to play with her anymore. I said, well, did you have a conversation with her? Because I want her at 7 and 8 years old to understand when you don't like something, that it's okay to have a conversation about it. Now, whatever happens after that is whatever happens after that. But you have to get into a place where you are using your words and you're emotionally mature enough to say, listen, I want to have a conversation with you, so-and-so. And so what she did, she went to the little girl and she said, it hurt my feelings when you do these things to me. It hurt my feelings when you don't let me play with you. And she said after they had the conversation that the little girl apologized, which I was excited and shocked about all in the same breath. The little girl apologized to her, and then they were fine after that. So it taught her that emotionally and socially, I can go to my friend and tell her how I feel. And even if she doesn't listen, I got it off my chest. I was able to have a conversation with her about it. And so now they're in the same classroom. So I didn't want that to affect her academically. She's sitting in the same table, and the girl, they're not talking anymore.
And also that, even deeper than that, it also teaches them how to resolve conflict.
Yes.
People have had this. We let me say this. Let me put it in perspective. Even as adults, we oftentimes, somebody will do something to us, or somebody will say something to us. We are offended by it, and we're like, you know what? I'm just gonna cut them off. I'm not gonna worry about it. At least give them an opportunity to tell you how you think, what you're thinking, and what is, your perceptions are your reality. I get it, but as it relates to conflict resolution, by teaching her at 7 years old to talk through the conversation, to at least tell them how you feel, it actually gives them a healthy outlet versus holding it in, never giving the person an opportunity to talk about, why they did what they did. Not that it would really matter, but again, you're trying to, the bigger picture, the bigger thing that you're trying to teach is conflict resolution.
Absolutely, because again, like we said this from the beginning, we are training them, we are rearing them to leave the house. We are raising them to leave. And so if she can get that skill and work on that skill and master that skill as a school-age child and an adolescent and a teenager, then she's going to be good to go in adulthood. She'll be able to sit down and have a conversation with somebody about her feelings, about their feelings, and then have some type of resolve in the end. And so this goes back to 4 to 5 step directions. This is the next part on the manual. 4 to 5 step directions. Go to school, sit down with your friend, tell her how you feel, come to a resolution. Those are 4 to 5 step directions. And even inside the house, I need you to go upstairs, go in my bathroom, get the Q-tips off of the counter, bring them to me, and get a trash bag. You see what I'm saying? Those are 4 to 5 step directions. They have to, at this age, do that because sometimes their math equations are 4 to 5 steps. Their questions for English or science are 4 to 5 steps. Our children are doing, they're doing virtual school because of COVID-19. So they have to read a passage. They have to think about what the author wants to convey to the people. Then they have to think about how they can express those things in their journal. Then they have to write a 4 to 5 sentence paragraph about, so those are 4 to 5 step directions. And if they're not getting it, again, like I said, you have to develop this in them. So you have to consistently teach them and what's the word I'm looking for? And just go over that skill. We are constantly doing it. Not that they're little slaves around this house, but we are always trying to develop their skills. Can you go downstairs? Can you go into the dryer and get me the this colored towel, can you bring it up to the bathroom and put it on the towel rack? And so we want to make sure that they are equipped.
Next one, sit training, advanced without electronics. Electronics is not a babysitter. Again, we kind of already touched bases with that, but I want to say
it gets more advanced.
The reason why sit training is so very important at this age is because now they're school age, they're in school, mm-hmm. and they will be required to sit long periods of time mm-hmm. to receive an instruction. You know, if your kid can't, if little Johnny or little Janie is all over the place and they're expected to sit for a longer period of time, you know, they do give them breaks and different mm-hmm. things, but for the most part, when they're in school, they're going to be sitting for at least
30 to 45 minutes.
30 to 45 minute increments. So that's why it's vital for them to be able for you to be able as a parent to instill that in them prior to them going to school so they can be well prepared.
Absolutely, I do. And I want to even include this because so many times in these days and times, our children are being labeled with ADD and ADHD, meaning attention deficit hyperactive disorder, meaning they can't sit down for long periods of time. But if you have an energetic child, children are supposed to be energetic. We have an energetic child, and it cracks me up because our oldest two always say, that little Reggie is wild. And what they mean by that is he is so full of energy. The minute we open that door, he shoots out like Sonic, and there he goes. But when it's time for school, he'll sit down and he'll focus because he knows that this is time I have to sit down and focus. Now, when this bell rings or it's time to go do a go noodle or something, there he goes Sonic again. He bouncing all over the place. So it's absolutely it's absolutely achievable to have a wild child, a child full of energy, but also sit down and do their work.
And let me tell you, I have 15 years in the military, so I have something to tame that all of that energy, make them do some military drills.
Oh yeah, they love those military drills. It's so funny. And so there you go with that. And so again, potty training, let's reiterate this again. As you can see, some of the skills are the same, but they just become more advanced, right? And so potty training, that's still consistent with, they might still have nighttime accidents. They might still have daytime accidents. It's okay. They're learning their bodies, their bowel movements, how they relieve themselves. This is still a learning, listen, at 40 years old, I'm still learning about my body. And so we have to be sensitive to our children who've been in their bodies for 5 and 6 years, that they're learning how to do things and how things operate and function. And it's okay. Accidents are okay. We have to teach, we have to train. So we have to be mindful of that. You want something to say before we go to the next one?
No, we can go ahead and go down on the next one. We're going to make sure that we, for the sake of time, we want to make sure that we get through all of the things that we want to accomplish here in the training.
Okay, so what's the next one? Social schedule. This one is more a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I believe there's balance in social schedule, extracurricular activities. I know some parents who have Susie in ballet, gymnastics, piano, swim, play dates all the time. And so I know we're on our side of the spectrum, we're more of homebodies, but there have to be a balance because we cannot overload our children to the point of stressing them out. They have swim, they have dance, they have soccer, they have school, they have church, they have, play dates with little, Jenny at the end of the block. We have to curtail those activities that the parents are not stressed. It doesn't bring stress on the family dynamic. And then also the children. I know we want the best for them. We want to involve them in so many things, but I believe 100% that we have to have balance. Our children have been in swim lessons. Our children have been in soccer. Is it every day? No. Is it every week? No. The older they'll get, the more they'll do. But our priority is that we have balanced children because I want them to be balanced adults. I don't want them to feel like they have to do 100 things to know that they're doing something in life. We have to be mindful of that. Do we want our children to do a little more? I mean, absolutely. Do we want them to develop socially, emotionally, academically, and physically? Absolutely. But it's also our responsibility as parents to show them how to temper those things, how to curtail those things, and how to not put so much on their plates. Okay, so curiosities. Here's the body. Yes. So these are the like I said, we're learning our bodies, right? We're learning how things function, listen. And from a girl to a boy, things are different. I remember when Azariah started to get a little hair on his legs, and it's like he got his hair on his legs early. He's like, "What is this?" I was like, "Well, hair comes on your body." And so the difference between him and our daughter needed deodorant at 4 and 5 years old. He is 11 and just now starting to need deodorant. So the things in their bodies are developing, and I want them to be comfortable in their bodies when things are changing and that they have questions. The best thing for our children to, when they have curiosities about their bodies or things or people, is that if they see that their parents are comfortable in their bodies and about situations, then they're more apt into asking and engaging with you about those things. If I am insecure about my body, how dare my children come to me and have something going on with them, and they wouldn't come to me if I'm insecure and I pour those insecurities on my children. Did you want to say something to that?
Yeah, just reinforce that it's important to have them in a place where they feel comfortable talking about changes and things, and because what you don't want as a parent, trust me, what you don't want as a parent is they don't feel comfortable talking to you about it, and somebody outside of those that you would probably approve of as a parent will give them information that they take and run with. And what I'm saying is that it could be something that you wouldn't probably tell your child. So that's why it's important I believe that it's your responsibility as the parent to teach your children. Mm-hmm. And I believe that other people, we at some point or some juncture in life, we kind of extend that help to educators, doctors, and people who are necessarily required for us to kind of be whole in that whole process. Mm-hmm. Always make a comfortable environment for them to tell you the little things. And when you feel comfortable, when they feel comfortable telling you the small things, they'll feel comfortable telling you the big things.
Absolutely. As well. And this goes with things and people, the curiosity. If there are things that they're seeing in school and on TV and in the playground and neighborhood that piques their curiosity for whatever reason, then use those moments as a teaching moment and to kind of gauge where they are, right? And so I remember when the Loud House, I don't know if I said this last week, the Loud House came out and there was a same-sex couple as the neighbors. And so I wanted to see where my children were in understanding that dynamic, because they might have friends at school with same-sex parents. They don't understand the sex part about it, but they understand two women or two men. And so I asked our children, why does the little boy's friend's dad has two dads? And our kids said, because they don't have a mom. And so that was enough for me to gauge their understanding of that. I was curious. And so I didn't make it a frightening thing. I didn't make it a demeaning thing, but I wanted to gauge their understanding of what they saw. So again, if they can be sensitive, they can be socially and emotionally ready when these things come up, because they might have a play date with the neighbor and they might have two dads. They might have two moms, and you just have to be ready for that. Also with people and, things and people. I mean, it's just these are the curiosity stages. They're trying to figure stuff out. And I know growing up, we always heard stay in a child's place. And although there's a necessity to that, meaning don't be in conversations about adult things, but when they're curious, you have to engage them in their curiosity on their level. Okay, so the last thing on here is about chores. This is when we get up the ante in the chores. And the best way to do that is have them observe you to do it. Just like in the quote, according to social learning approaches, children learn gender-related behavior and expectations from their observation of others. So our children see us cook, clean, fold laundry, wash dishes, clean bathrooms, take out trash. And so they also do that. Our children love to cook. So our oldest can cook breakfast. He can do eggs, sausage, waffles, and that's about the extent right now. He can do more, but he's also teaching his little brother who is 6 to cook sausage and eggs, and then TJ, the baby, he's starting to wash dishes. So they're all learning by what we're doing, and so this is a stage where you can increase their chore level. And I'm not one to pay our children to do chores because we're not paid to clean our house. Nobody gives us a payment to clean our house. So we're teaching them, this is your house. We want you to keep your house and your room clean as well. And so I'm not shading anybody who wants to pay, for chores, but.
And it's nothing wrong with providing incentives. All incentives do, in my opinion, is that it, again, as stated previously, it allows you to really reinforce the behavior that you want your child to repeat. I believe that would be some intrinsic motivation for me, not that we want them to only be motivated by money or something that they can get. But again, it's important to teach them teamwork. It teaches them so many different social levels that we don't even realize. It teaches them teamwork. It teaches them how to get along well with others, how to work together. All of those principles you're learning. So it's so much more deeper than just cleaning the house or, giving them chores.
Absolutely. And so let's go to the next thing, consequences. I think, consequences, I always hear Dr. Phil say, your children need to know 100% of the time that if they do A, B is going to happen. If they do A, B is going to happen. Fair, firm, and consistent. We talk about that in the training. Fair, firm, and consistent. Consequences is a must. It corrects our behavior. It curtails us. It tempers us. No one is exempt from getting consequences. As an adult, if you're late to work too many times, you might get written up. That's a consequence. So you have to understand that we cannot have consequence-less children. We cannot have children who are not corrected and who are not disciplined. And we talk about this a little later too. They have to understand with 100% certainty, if I do A, B will happen.
Absolutely. On to the next one.
Learning and understanding their way. You have to understand how they learn and how they develop. If we constantly try to teach our children based on how we learn, we'll miss it every time. Here goes another story. For Azarias, all of his first grade and all of his second grade, I would tell him the same thing every day. Get up, brush your teeth, or get up, make your bed, brush your teeth, get your backpack ready, get dressed, or whatever. And I kept finding myself saying, why aren't you remembering what to do? I just did not get it. And I became frustrated until I had an aha moment. Learning his way. He's visual. My son is a visual learner. So what I did was type up a chore list or a list of your instructions for the morning. And I had a checklist. There we go. A checklist. So I had a checklist of what, and I put it on his wall in his room, and I never had to say anything to him after that. It took me years to realize that my child wasn't learning how I was teaching him. He had to understand and learn his way. And so we had to figure out each 4 of our children, how they learn and understand.
So let us save you a few years of frustration.
Yes.
Learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
It's important to tap into the way that your child learns, and that will save you a lot of heartache, pain, and frustration.
Absolutely. And so with this, they also have to learn how to manage their emotions. Like we said, for boys, young boys, a lot of parents teach their young boys not to cry, not to be emotional, suck that in, get over yourself, suck them tears up. And we know that this is really inappropriate and it's unnecessary because we are all given emotions. Every human being who's living and breathing have emotions, but we have to teach our children, girls and boys, to manage their emotions. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. Daniel Tiger said, it's okay to feel angry, but it's not okay to hurt someone. So we have to help them manage their emotions, whether they're angry, whether they're upset with us. We teach our children it's okay to be upset with mommy and daddy because mommy and daddy might be upset with you in a few minutes. You have to manage them. You have to give them the space, the safe environment to do that.
Absolutely.
I want you to talk about bullies and bullying.
Bullies and bullying. There are all kind of school policies that obviously um, doesn't allow these things. It's against it's against the code for you to be a bully, or to be bullied or to bully other people. I think it's a safety thing. It's so much liability that comes from the whole process of being bullied. But it's basically, if you know anything about bullying, a lot of times these kids have unmet needs in the home, and this is it's an outward manifestation, or it's a how can I say this? What you see, is only the outward.
You said an
The outward manifestation of what's really feeling and really going on. Maybe they got a lot of stress and different things going on in the home. It could be a whole myriad of reasons why they're doing what they're doing. We as trained professionals get this and understand, but sometimes it's challenging for educators to kind of see that and to kind of dig a little bit deeper. You want to say anything else about
No, I think especially kids who, I think kids who are bullied at home by their parents typically bully at school. And so you have to understand the iceberg versus, what's underneath the iceberg. You're going to see a little, bit at the top, with the tip, but you don't see what's going on. A lot of kids who, and true, this is for adults too. A lot of adults who bully have lost control in some area of their life, and so that's their outlet to display that. And so we have to understand, if kids are being bullies, where are they losing control at? And if they're being bullied, how to stand up for themselves. How, we teach our children, this is just straight up, we teach our children, don't ever start a fight. If you're being bullied, you tell the teacher. We don't teach snitches get stitches and all that stuff, that ignorant stuff. We teach them to protect themselves. If they're in a situation where they have to defend themselves physically, then they have permission to defend themselves physically. But if they're in a space that they're being bullied or harassed, then they go to the teacher. If the teacher doesn't do anything, go to the administrator. There's a chain of command. And then they also have to tell their parents, because 100% of the time we're going to stand up for them, especially when they operate in the confinements we have taught them. You try to take care of it yourself. You stand up. Please, little Johnny, leave me alone. I ask for you to stop. If that doesn't work, you go get a teacher. If the teacher decides not to do anything, you go get the administrator. If the administrator decides not to do something, you come and tell your parents, and then we'll take care of it from there.
Come get Big Papa.
Yeah. Okay, so teaching desired behaviors, that goes along with, when children are sent, we want to teach our children the behaviors we want them to do. We want to teach them to be kind and loving and compassionate and thoughtful and respectful. So you have to consistently teach them those things, so those behaviors come out. We cannot expect our children to behave in a certain pattern if we're not teaching them to behave in a certain way.
On to transitioning to middle and high school, my expertise. Middle schoolers, and people say all the time, how can you deal with teenagers? Give me teenagers any day of the week over little kids. They are a little bit more challenging, but in their own right, if you really kind of get down to really know who they are, they'll comply just as well as a small child will. I've learned that. It took me many, many years being in this field to learn that. Age-appropriate transitions for middle school and the high schoolers. Think about it like this. Middle schoolers are, as my mom would say growing up, they're beginning to smell themselves, literally. So I want to just kind of talk in the thought of the teenagers. Teenagers, they think they've grown. They think they know everything. You can't tell them anything. They are risk takers. And so you may see a lot more injuries for this type of age group, because they're more daring, they're more adventurous. But this is the age appropriate transitions. They should be able to do more privileges. They should be cooking at this point in time. Driving, dating, the S word.
Listen, let me say this. So with I know you might not want to hear it, but yes, the S word sex. But we'll talk about it in just a second. But I want to talk quickly so we can get through the little bit of time we have left, because we have a lot of the booklet. Yes. So age appropriate transitions. When you're transitioning from so now they have a tablet. Now they have a phone. So transitioning from a tablet to a phone is a whole new ball game. So what is the appropriate transitions for that? What are the privileges of that? Can you be on the phone after midnight? Can you be texting? Are you texting inappropriate things? Those things we have to pay attention to. Cooking, again, children are born to leave the home. We are transitioning them from under our roof to their own roof. We are rearing them to leave the house. So they have to be able to cook. When I went to college, I saw a lot of girls that know how to clean their dorm rooms or make their beds up, which was crazy to me, because we are brought up to leave. To fight back is bad. Okay, that's a good question. We'll get that. Do you feel like telling your kids to fight back is bad? Don't let me forget. We'll come back to that.
Hold that one at the end.
Yes. And so these age appropriate transition, like I said, from tablets to phones, that's a privilege. I'm paying your bill is not a right. It's a privilege. And so these are my restrictions on that. Cooking, driving. We have GPS monitors now on our vehicles, so that can help the family, with the responsibility. Now, if you say you're going to your friend's house, you can't be sneaking out and going to some party, because things happen. Now, I know all kids do these things, but you have to understand these age appropriate transitions, that they're going to try to challenge those areas. But we have to make sure that we keep an open relationship with our children, so we understand when they start to get away from the rules and requirements we have of them, that we can pull them back in.
And but again, like she brought up a valid point, and then we can move on. It's important to understand that we're not, that we shouldn't be raising entitled children. Mm-hmm. Our kids, we ask them every year what do they want for Christmas, and they really say, I really don't know, Mom and Dad, and that tells us that we're going to pat ourselves on the back, right? That lets us know that we're not raising children to be entitled. Mm-hmm. And I think it starts at the early years, right? If you transition well, you will be less likely to deal with these issues and these problems when they become older. Not to say that there won't be any challenges, but I'm saying if you transition them well from each step and each level of development, you will see a significant likelihood that it's going to be less stressful for you later on.
Absolutely. And that goes with dating and having the sex conversations. Whatever your beliefs are in your home, that's what you teach. Now, this goes with responsibilities and making good. Got to plug this in, and making good choices. It's important that that you're having these conversations, that they understand responsibilities of having sex. If you teach abstinence in your home, but you also have to teach, well, you have to be responsible in that. Something might happen. And so making good choices, being independent thinkers, peer pressure, those types of things. I always say that I didn't deal with a lot of peer pressure because I was an independent thinker. If I wanted to do it, I would do it. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And you're not going to bully me you're not going to peer pressure me into doing it. And we have to give our children that bold and courageous attitude to have an independent mind. I don't have to go with the in crowd. I don't have to do what everybody else is doing.
And let me say this, just because, and here's the reality, parents, which we all need to realize, you instill in them the principles and the qualities and the good ethics and the moral values and all of that stuff, right? The reality of it is if that child decides to do something, to have sex one way or the other, you're not going to be there. Right. And so you want to give them enough tools to say, okay, son, this is what I'm teaching you. Okay, daughter, this is what we believe and this is what should happen. However, in the event that you decide to do this or you can't control yourself, at least protect yourself.
Absolutely. And so, because again, we're preparing them for adulthood. We're preparing them for getting a job, getting a college, adulthood, life and death can happen in this. I mean, there's so many accidents that happen in middle and high school that can lead to death. So we have to make sure that we are properly equipping them in this stage of their lives, because we have them for a few more years. in this stage, middle to high school, they're under our roof for a few more years.
And let me say this: most middle and high school teenagers have no clue or have no concept of high risk behavior. They trust me. I'm telling you from 20 years of experience. They say some of the craziest stuff, and like it's not going to make logic sense to an adult who knows better, who has limitations and values and all that. Not to say these kids don't, but some of the things that they say and some of the high risk behaviors that they're engaging in, it is like you will be blown away to some of the mindsets of some of these young people.
Absolutely. And so as we transition into early adulthood, on page 17, we cannot stop parenting. We have almost she's almost 20. And so we cannot stop parenting. Many couples decide that when a child turns 18, that they're an adult. How many times have you heard that, oh, they're 18, they're an adult, they're fine, and you push them out of the house? But that's not reality. You don't stop parenting. You just parent differently in this age. There's a transition that takes place at 18 that requires, I think, really more of you as parents. And I think as parents under 18, you are more physically engaged. And then after 18, you're more emotionally, socially engaged, because now they're testing what you've taught them all these 18 years. They're trying these things out. And so with those transitions, you have to not be shocked by what you hear. You have to have an open mind, because there are going to be some things that you hear and see, and you might not agree with it, but you have to let them find their own way. Like on page, like we said, even on page 16, learning and understanding in their own way. They have to figure life out. We cannot hover over them and be helicopter parents, because there's a time that the helicopter will stop. They won't always be in our company. They won't always be in our presence. So we have to know that what we taught them will transition through these transitions.
And that's what my wife was saying, that I believe that those are even more critical years. And I know people say, well, I'm so happy we're going to throw a party and celebrate that these kids are out of the house. If we were to be honest with ourselves, parents are probably, they're saying that outwardly, but they're also thinking to themselves, did I give my child enough to be able to make the appropriate decisions and live independently outside of me? Absolutely. Because that's the end goal.
That is the end goal. And then this is also a transition for parents. You are not as engaged with your child. You cannot dictate, their choices and what they do in life at this point, but you also have to transition. These things are real life issues. There's real life issues. Should they go to college? Should they go to a trade school? Should they go to the military? Jobs and career. I remember growing up, my dad said, y'all don't have to go to college. Y'all don't have a choice. And although we wanted to, that was our desire to go to college or get a trade, it was no choice. And so that's the same thing in our home. They're going to have to have a career, whether that's going to a traditional university, going to a military, going to a JUCO, a junior college, or going to a trade school. They have to have some type of plan. Once they turn 18, they cannot stay in our home for the next.
And let me say this:
20 years doing nothing.
I'm a father of 3 sons.
3 sons.
And so I'm intentional about cooking. My sons see me cook. My daughter, all of our children see me cook. They see daddy clean. They see me. And so what I'm actually, again, they may not be able to understand it at 10 and 6 and 2 and 8. But what I'm promoting is that teamwork again. I'm reinforcing teamwork. I'm showing them by my example. We clean with them. We don't sit on the couch while our children clean this house. We clean it together. And so I'm saying all of that. And so I'm saying all of that to say, you have to be okay with letting kids make mistakes and finding their way and feeling their way.
And even into early adulthood, you have to, because, there's some mistakes that I've made in my early adulthood that hasn't made me the woman that I am today. And so without those experiences, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. So I'll go ahead.
And so having 3 sons is non-negotiable. They are we believe that the guys, the men are the head of the household. They have a greater level of responsibility, in my opinion. No one is not going to be sympathetic of a big grown rusty son. Not that you love them any less, but you're teaching them to leave the nest, as we're always conveying. That's the end goal.
You're teaching them to leave the nest and leave
the homes. So you know, my sons is like, I refuse to raise lazy sons.
Right,
they don't
absolutely.
see daddy laying around. They see me working. They see me cooking. They see me cleaning. And so for me, it's non-negotiable. That's. And let me say this, and then we can move on to the next. You have to be that all of your children may not be college material.
Right. Listen,
you know,
college is not for everybody.
Your kid may be good with his or her hands and working with their hands, and that's okay. I know trade schools, 18 months starting out the gate making $75K.
Yeah, which is a good salary.
Which is a good salary for an 18, 19-year-old kid. Think about it. You know, 20-year-old kid making $75,000. So there are other alternatives, and me personally, I'm not going to force or make it mandatory that our children go to school. Listen, son, it's your life. You got to support yourself. I've done my part. I'm not going to throw you away, but I've done my part. You have to make the decision, because it's you who's going to have to support yourself for the next 20, 40, 60 years and get a family and all of that stuff. I've given you a solid example. Now it's time for you to execute it.
Yeah, so we have to prepare them for the best for their life, though. So if it's just a trade, if it's a skill, if it's something, we want to better equip them early on so they can have, you know, an easier life, you know. And so I love this quote by John Connolly. It says, "For in every adult there dwells the child that was, and in every child there lies the adult that will be." Have to prepare them for the adults they will be. It starts with them being little humans, right?
Absolutely. And I think at some point, again, if we were to be honest with ourselves, we try to live vicariously through our children. You know, so I kind of have mixed feelings about that, but I'm saying, let me say this. It's nothing wrong with pushing your children into their purpose and into their destiny, into their potential. Don't allow them to take the easy route out, because the reality of it is anything that they're going to do in life, again, preparing them to leave the home, the end goal, to be independent and to be able to support themselves. That's always the end goal. Mm-hmm. We want them to have the skill set, the wherewithal, and the tenacity to be able to say, you know what, my mother and father taught me well. They taught me how to balance a checkbook. They taught me how to make proper decisions. And so again, when parents appear to or project that they're happy and they're celebrating their children leaving the home, internally, I have to say that they will say, okay, now it's my time to shine as a parent, to see if I provided my child with the adequate tools to leave the nest and to be successful.
And if I didn't, that means you're just going to have to stick in there just a little bit more, and then be engaged with them a little bit more, and just work those kinks out along the way.
Absolutely.
So let's go to page 19, discipline, fair, firm, and consistent. Jim Rohn says this, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments.
Ooh,
my goodness.
I love it.
Yeah. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. So discipline on page 21 is a naughty word in so many cultures. Most parents fail to understand that discipline is their friend and a great source to lessen punishments. When children are disciplined, they know and recognize parents' expectations. Discipline is a tool that will carry them throughout their lifetime. So many times we intertwine discipline and punishment, and we don't want to punish our kids. We want to discipline them. Now, does punishment comes? It does. I wouldn't be honest in here. But what is discipline? It's fair, firm, and consistent corrective behaviors. It's teaching them. It's a conglomerate of things that come together. You know, it's talking. We talk with our children. Sometimes we yell at them. Sometimes we physically discipline and we spank their behinds. And so all of those things are coming. Are together is what we use for discipline.
And discipline, let me be clear. We do more talking than anything. Discipline corporal punishment should be the last resort. And some parents may not even believe in corporal punishment. And that's okay too, whatever works for you. What I'm saying is, even Department of Social Services, they'll tell you that it's okay to spank your child, just as long as you don't leave a mark. So because there's a fine line between abuse and, what I'm saying? So all of those things are in place as well. So, but again, some people may believe that spanking or corporal punishment, they just absolutely refuse to do that. If that's your thing, then that's your thing. That's okay. I can't tell you how to run your household, but I think whatever you do, whatever mechanisms or devices that you choose, or methods rather that you choose, make sure that you're firm, fair, and consistent with it. You would never ever want to have a child to develop the mindset that it's okay to continue in the delinquent behavior, because unfortunately, so many times, especially in the Department of Juvenile Justice, kids have developed this attitude that they don't have to listen to anybody. They don't have to listen to the parents, that pay for their clothing, their food, and everything that basically promotes their entire livelihood. So you're going to see that discipline is going to be key. What's the point of discipline? What's the purpose of discipline? To change the behavior. We want them to change, and we're trying to teach them that if you continuously do this outside of this home, there's not going to be any difference. Like my wife was saying earlier, if you're consistently late for work, if you're consistently late for school, they're going to be a constant that you may get disciplined for that. It may be that you cannot no longer, you may forfeit your full ride scholarship or something of that nature. That's a little extreme, but just to drive the point home, you have to be firm, you have to be fair, and you have to be consistent.
So let's talk about some types of discipline. I'm not going to be able to go through all of these, but the first, authoritarian discipline, it has clear expectations and consequences, but shows little affection toward his or her child. The parent may say things like, because I'm the mommy, that's why. This is a less effective form of parenting.
Oh, yes.
That authority, oh my gosh.
Let me talk about that.
And that's also cultural sometimes too.
Absolutely. Let me speak on this very briefly. In the Department of Justice, being an authoritative figure or punishment, you're not really teaching the kid authoritarian. You're not really teaching the kid anything. In my 20 years of experience, that's in my opinion, based upon what I've seen. Normally, you're teaching the kid, to fear you or to have a fear for you. They're not really doing it because
they're emotionally connected.
They're emotionally connected, and they really have the true desire to change. They're just doing it because they're afraid of what may happen, and that's not a healthy thing. I mean, let me put it in perspective. I don't do things that's going to cause me to go to jail because I'm not jail material. Right. I get that. I understand that. So you kind of have to have that balance in between the two. Is this effective? And if you're going to continuously do something that doesn't work, you're going to only be stressed out and don't see you're not going to see any change in behavior.
Okay. And so the authoritative discipline has clear expectations and consequences and is affectionate toward his or her child. The authoritative parent allows for flexibility and collaborative problem solving with the child when dealing with behavioral challenges. This is the most effective form of parenting. This is what we do a lot, authoritative. Absolutely. We are very connected with our children emotionally, so we try to talk to them in ways that they can better understand and then curtail that behavior.
And one of the primary differences between the authoritarian and the authoritative, I'm jacking these words up. One, as you can see, the first one had no concern of any follow through or any change behavior on the back end, whereas authoritarian. Lord, I can't even speak.
Authoritarian.
Yes. Authoritative, as you can see, how this can be a very effective thing into teaching them why they got punished. They can articulate why they got punished. You're bantering. You're actually collaborating with them, and you're teaching them problem solving skills, so that they don't repeat that behavior in the future.
Right. Okay. So permissive discipline, this is a no-no, shows lots of affection toward his or her child, but provides little discipline. This is a less effective form of parent. We know parents like this that will love on their children, very emotionally connected with their children, but don't discipline them. And those children will listen. 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 15 and 16. If you are a permissive disciplinarian, you have to get yourself together today, because you can love your child, but if they have no structure and no discipline, they are going to be hell on wheels as even adults. They'll just be all over the place.
Have you ever seen a parent whose child is running all over the place in the store? Have you ever seen those parents who are very permissive, or they'll say something crazy to the child and the child's still not listening and they're not responding? Now, children are going to be children, hear me. But what we're saying is being permissive or being overly affectionate without ever addressing the issue, you're teaching them, you're actually empowering them to continue the behavior.
You're empowering the undesired behavior. And we'll talk about that on the next page. But positive and negative discipline is always good. Tailored, redirection, boundary based. You don't cross his boundaries. What I mean by that, like our children. So let me give you an example. Our children have the freedom to express to us. If they're not liking, you might not like me at the moment. You might be upset with me. They have in our house. They have the boundary to tell me how they feel, but they cannot be rude and disrespectful. They can't say you a nasty, crazy mama. They can say, mama, you say this and it hurts my feelings. So they have, so even in our discipline, there are boundaries that you just cannot cross, right?
And again, you're promoting them to be social, how to resolve conflict in a healthy manner, in a healthy way. You can say anything that you need to say to most people if it's tactful.
If it's tactful and respectful, absolutely. So what does discipline look like for your family? When you're listening to these things, when you're going through this manual, you need to write down where you think you are and see where you can be better effective in your home. It's always age appropriate discipline. Do not forget that. You cannot discipline a 2-year-old how you can discipline an 11-year-old. And even the 11-year-old might be developmentally delayed. So you also have to curtail those things. You always have to age appropriately discipline your child.
And here's the thing. One of the things that one of the goals of discipline should always be to deter the behavior. Mm-hmm. If what you're doing as a disciplinarian, and I use that in air quotes, if your discipline is not effective, then it's time for you to scratch that, put something, put a new skill on the table and to do something that does work. Mm-hmm. Why continuously engage in activities that are ineffective?
Absolutely. So that goes with the lack of discipline, what it looks like. How can you reverse it? Like he said, if you feel like you are a permissive disciplinarian and you need to be more authoritative, then you can change it. It happens. You can reverse it with routines and schedules and expectations. You can always reverse what you're doing. Today is a good day to start. If you're a permissive disciplinarian, if you're more loving and affectionate to your children than correcting their behavior, undesired behavior, then you have the authority and the space to do it now. This is an unknown quote. You will never always be motivated. You have to learn to be disciplined. You have to learn as a parent to be disciplined in order to discipline your children. So if you're always affectionate, if you're always lackadaisical or nonchalant about certain things, you cannot expect your children to be energetic and the opposite of what you are in discipline. If you see that you are living an undisciplined life and you expect your children to be disciplined, you have to first be disciplined.
And let me say this, it's never a good idea to discipline your children when you're upset and mad and angry.
That's a no-no.
That's ineffective.
That's abuse.
That's ineffective parenting. Mm-hmm. That's parenting 101.
It can be very abusive.
You can say things when you're mad and angry and upset that you wouldn't normally say when you're cool, calm, and collected. Mm-hmm. So it's never a good idea to try to discipline or initiate any type of discipline under the auspices of being angry and upset.
Absolutely.
Give yourself a moment to kind of cool down. Many of times I'm like, I'm too, my wife is like, okay, honey, how are we gonna handle this situation? I'm like, honey, I'm too upset right now. Give me a moment to gather my thoughts and to collect myself. And then I'll revisit this situation. But you have to be in a place where you're aware of your emotions and where you are, and to do it. I would much rather you discipline your child under more what's the word I'm trying to say? Under circumstances where you're more calm mm-hmm. and you have it together, where you're not moving and driven off of emotion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, and this goes right into our next section on page 23, behavior modification. Behavior modification is a skill every parent needs to acquire. When behaviors become undesirable, it is not a time to get upset, but to refocus. And this is when the village can come in. I'm going to give you a perfect example. This is not really serious, but I think it's funny. We were in Florida at our spiritual parents' home, and I was trying to get TJ to just try this Dippin' Dots ice cream because he asked for ice cream and he was throwing a fit. And he was like, I don't want it. And I was like, but you asked me for ice cream. And I was like, well, just eat it. Just try it. And I was trying to give him the spoon. So I was trying to modify his behavior by showing him it's good, it's ice cream, by talking to him nicely, sitting down. Nothing was working. My spiritual mother sat on the stairs and says, listen, Agape is the puppet. Agape thinks this ice cream is want to eat it all up. You should try it. You want to try it before Agape tries it, because Agape is going to eat all of this ice cream up if you don't try it. And when I tell you, that boy opened his mouth and scoffed all that ice cream down, and I'm just sitting here looking. I wasn't salty at all, not even the least bit, because my village came in and helped me modify his tantrum by approaching it in a totally different way. And it worked.
And let me say that, parent, mom, dad, you're not less of a parent if an if an auntie, or if the mom is trying to have difficulty, or if the mom is having difficulty, I can sometimes come in and instantly diffuse the situation, and vice versa. My wife can sometimes come in and instantly diffuse the situation. You know, that's get off your high horse. That's no shade, or that doesn't mean that you're less of a parent. We want the end goal. The end goal is his compliance, right? And so you can't sweat the small stuff. You can't. Don't get worked up over the little things. Always focus on the end goal. How can I, the bigger picture? How can I get this child to comply with my request?
So you have to curtail those undesired behaviors by sometimes having a totally different approach, or by having somebody who's more skilled in that area come in and diffuse the situation. But you also have to understand the underlying reasons for behaviors. There's a root cause to every behavior. There is, I'm going to say it again, write that down in your menu. There's a root cause to every behavior. And it's the iceberg understanding. You know, the Titanic. It wasn't the big iceberg that they saw and was scared of. It's what was underneath that they didn't see, that tore up the boat. Absolutely. So you have to get down to why are they operating. Now, in belief, can we just have a psychological moment for here to analyze why TJ, that ice cream didn't look familiar to him? So that was an underlying issue. It was in little circles. It was in little dots. It wasn't on a cone. It wasn't in a stick, because he said that I want it on a stick. It wasn't on a stick. So his tantrum, the underlying reason for his tantrum was it was unfamiliar. So if you get to the underlying issue, you can modify the behavior by trying to understand where it's coming from.
Exactly. And I think as parents, we sometimes don't want to take the time, or we're not patient enough to identify what's the root cause of the behavior. We do that as adults.
We do.
You know, if I say something that my wife didn't like, I notice a shift in her behavior.
Hey.
And now it would behoove me at that point as the husband to kind of try to figure out what the root cause of why my wife is responding the way. You know, she'll be short and she'll say, I'm fine. No, you're not fine. Right. And I keep digging until I get it out. Well, this was the root cause. And the same holds true if we are intentional about finding out what is causing or driving the behavior. We can diffuse it a whole lot quicker.
Yep. And that's with anger and aggression. Sometimes we just see the destruction. We see the yelling, the screaming, the cussing, the breaking the windows, the throwing stuff, because that's immediate. It's in our face. But what's going on? That aggression, that anger can be fear. It can be fear of the unknown. It can be something has happened. It could be a trigger. All of these things, aggression and anger is just the end result. It's not the root cause.
It's not what's driving it.
It's not.
And you see that all of the time. And after even fist fights, I had to physically roll around on young, strong, young men and literally restrain them in my different parts of. I'm too old to be doing all of that now, but in a different part of my younger years. I used to have to do that a lot, and it without fail, every single time that I would de-escalate the situation, part of the de-escalation is always talking it through or talking through it. Right. And one of the skill sets that I learned through that de-escalation process is that you always seek to find out what behavior, what emotions drove them to get to the point where they feel like they had to fight. And what I find interesting was that, 100% of the time, there were, as my wife is saying, there was always a root cause that drove the behavior. It can be something small as, and you're thinking to your mind, you can't be judgmental, right? But you're thinking in your mind, like, you really started a fight because he sat in the chair when you went to go get up to go to the restroom. Really? So again, but we can't.
But it could be like,
we have to separate what we think and what we feel, because it may be a big issue. I don't ever want to minimize how a person felt.
Like I was just about to say, if that kid got into a fight because somebody took his chair when he went to the restroom, what if he grew up in a foster home and there was no chair at the table, and so he correlates that chair means I get to eat, in a foster home. And so now somebody that took my tables because it triggered that moment. And that's for us as adults. We have those our aggression, our anger, like he said. If he say something crazy, my whole demeanor changed, because my disposition changes, because that you don't have to talk to me like that, right? And so that's what it is. That's what it is. And so we have to understand, what's the root? What is it? And so we also have to understand monkey see, monkey do versus do as I say, not as I do. We have to get out of that with behavior modification. They're watching us. So if we have a disagreement as mama and daddy, most of the time, probably 90% of the time, our children watch us. Because I grew up in a house where I never saw my parents argue. I never saw them handle conflict resolution. I never saw them do that. So as an adult, as a child, a teenager, a young adult, I had to learn and myself how to do it. And so with our children, we constantly talk to them about conflict resolution, but we also model it for them. And that is so important.
You would be amazed at a lot of the population that I deal with. They are heavily into substance abuse, or heavily into alcohol, drugs, period. Right. And again, let me really kind of just put it in perspective for you. I have been in this field long enough to know and to understand that there is a driving force. There is a root cause as to why these kids are doing what they're doing. The trauma, it could be trauma driven. It could be abandonment issues, neglect, fear, all of those root causes. And this is how, one time, let me tell you this story and then we'll move on. One time this kid would hoard like hygiene products and hygiene items. And I thought that was the most bizarre thing. And I really kind of began to connect with him and started to establish a rapport with him. And one day I just asked him, I said, hey, I've noticed that you have an abundance of hygiene items in your room. Can you talk to me about that? And now at this point, he felt comfortable enough to kind of tell me what was going on, right? And he began to say, Mr. Reggie, growing up, we were without, and I would go days on end without having showers and baths and stuff. And I'm like, wow, it made sense. And then at that point, I was able to tell him, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And so no one, you're fine. Just make sure you keep it locked up. If that's valuable and if that's important to you, then that should be valuable and important to me.
Absolutely. And so Plato says human behavior flows from three main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. It's so good.
And let me say this. I don't know if you all are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's so important. And I really see this go, in full, in fruition when I talk about when I see unmet needs. And not Plato, I was about to say Plato. Maslow says that every behavior is a direct result of an unmet need. And I can definitely, and let me put it in perspective again. If my 2-year-old is upset, he'll cross his hands, he'll cross his arms like this, and he'll mess his face up and he'll say,
It's so funny.
Right? Or he'll start crying, or if I tell him no, right? The end result of is the unmet need. Daddy, can I get a lollipop? No. Daddy, can I get something sweet? Daddy, can I get a sucker? No. But I want you to think about a recent conflict that you've had, maybe with a spouse or maybe with one of your children. It is a direct result of an unmet need. You said, for example, your kid may want to have to go take the car out, go for a ride and go to the mall and go hang out. And you said no, because they've been irresponsible of being in the home or not following what you've asked them to do in the home. And so as a consequence, you say, no, they're going to probably give you all kind of attitude. They're going to probably give you all kind of lip and back talk, all of that. Why? Because there is an unmet need. They want to go driving. They want to go to the mall and hang out with some friends. So at any rate, I think it's important to understand. I want to challenge you all to look at the manifestation of the behavior. Look deeper. Don't no longer look at the surface, the tip of the iceberg, but there is a root cause that's deeper down that's really driving the behavior.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's go to destiny. On page 25, walking them into purpose. Tony Kerwin says, robbing a child of destiny is like stealing history before it is written.
Wow.
It absolutely is. And let me read this. It says, children hear quite often in their early days, what do you want to be when you grow up? They often recite ambitious childhood dreams, a football player, a doctor, a mommy, even a fairy. These ideas are usually colored by what they see most often or what they really love. In the most innocent way, their hearts truly believe these things can happen. And in some cases, other than the fairy, they can and will. It is the job of parents to know what their children are destined to be and help foster environments conducive to those desires. It won't come without challenge, but it will be worth it. What is destiny? Destiny is your assignment, your purpose in the earth, what you are created to do. And I'm going to give this to you in the religious way and in the secular way. And so in the religious way, we tell in the believers that our children can do whatever God has called them to do. I believe that's very important because we can't, if God is calling them to be a firefighter, we can't push them to be a police officer. So you have to, and even in the secular world, we tell them you can do whatever you want to do, whatever their desire is what we will push them to do. Everybody has an assignment on their life. Everybody has something inside of them that they're going to do in this earth that's going to be great. We have to push them to do it, not aggressively push them, but gently push them. We know Azariah is really good in soccer. He might not be a professional soccer player, but him playing soccer might give him a free scholarship in college to do what God has created him to do. And so, but we can't also be overbearing and overpowering. If we know our children are supposed to be actors, they might, be an Oscar nominated actor. We can't be stage moms and stage parents, and making them hate the craft. So there has to be some type of balance. You have to know what it's our responsibility as parents to know what our children are supposed to do. That's one of our requirements.
Let me use the life of Beyonce. Many of you may or may not know who Beyonce was, but Beyonce's parents saw something in her, in their child at a very young age. They quit their job. They quit their full-time career. Now that's some blind walking by faith and not by sight. They quit everything that they knew to be comfortable and normal to them to push their child into their purpose and into her purpose and into her destiny. Fast forwarding today, Beyonce is one of the most well-known R&B singers out there.
Next to Michael Jackson.
She and Jay-Z are
everybody know Beyonce.
They're J and B.
I don't know about Jay, but everybody know Beyonce.
They are billionaires, right? All because what my wife is saying, all because the parents decided to really see something on the inside of their child and go at it with full force.
Absolutely. So I love this quote by Joel Osteen. It says, you weren't created to be average. You were created to excel. You have destiny to fulfill, an assignment to accomplish. We all do. And so you have to, I think this is a part of the menu that you really have to sit down, get in the tub, soak and relax, and write down things that you can see in each one of your children and try to come up with a plan on how you can gently push them into their destiny. How do you know what your child is destined for? What if they change their mind? What if he starts to hate soccer next year? That's okay. What if my child doesn't agree with what they know that they will be? If we know our child is supposed to be a doctor and they don't agree, I can't even push my desires on them. I just have to gently continue to raise them as they will leave the house, and then just push them into math and science and make sure they know these things, because they might not, but just to push them in the area where we know that they will be successful and we know that they will accomplish those assignments.
It goes. I'm sure many of you Many of you have heard the saying, if you're doing something that you love to do, you will never work a day in your life. So why not push your child into a place, push them to say, hey, son, some options, what do try to figure out what they love to do. Because when you're pushing them into destiny and doing something they love to do, they'll never work a day in their life, and they'll be very passionate about it, and they'll put their all into it.
But also, and then do you want it more? We're a little distracted. There's deer outside of our window, and I'm sure you want to run upstairs and tell kids there's a reindeer outside. Our 2-year-old told us there was reindeers outside this morning, and there were deers outside, and so they're just sitting around because it's chilly today in Charlotte. But do you want it more for your child? You also have to have that balance. I can't want soccer more than my son wants soccer.
Absolutely.
So there has to be a balance. Even though I know in my heart he's going to be a fantabulous soccer player, I cannot want it more than him.
And again, that goes back to, I believe that at some point, to some degree, we want to live vicariously through our children. But that balance comes when we give them the luxury to say, you know what, I believe that you will be really, really good at A, B, or C. But when it's all said and done, I understand that you're the one who's going to have to execute A, B, and C.
Right. So I
Can you see yourself doing this for the next 20 years? Mm-hmm. Help guide them into the place that they would do something they are absolutely loving, and not later on how they desire that, they find out 10 years in that they're not fulfilling their purpose and their destiny.
Or they're not happy.
Or they're unhappy about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the balance comes. Always give them the liberty to make the decision. Okay, son, I think you'll be good in these areas. Or, okay, daughter, I think you'll be amazing in these areas. But ultimately, I can't live your life for you. I can't do it for you. I can guide you and give you some the best guidance that I know how as your parent, but I realize that ultimately that decision is going to be up to you.
Absolutely. So we just went through all of development, discipline, and destiny. And I know we didn't get through every point, but please still feel free, even if you're on the Whole Child, just the regular Whole Child page, ask your questions. Even in the private, this is a private place, so you can ask your questions. So let's go back to Jermaine's question. Do you feel like telling your kids to fight back is bad? And I say no. I feel like we have to, but in the confinement of our rule. So our rule is, if you can handle it yourself, verbally de-escalate the situation first. If somebody put their hands on you, you have all permission to defend yourself physically if you have to. Now, you can't bring a gun to a knife fight. So you always have to defend yourself in the same manner they're coming with you at. Right? Because there's consequences to that, and we'll deal with the consequences afterwards. But no, I don't feel like telling our children to fight back and to defend themselves is bad. Did you have something to say?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we would tell them to try to, walk away from the situation. If that doesn't work, then the next step would be, okay, I tried to walk away, and I would hope and pray that my kids would tell us when they came home, so that we can intervene on their behalf as well. So we'll notify the administrators ourselves, like, look, my child has came back to this house and has told me that he's having some issues, or she's having issues with certain people in the school. Now, we don't condone violence. I don't promote, violence in our home. But I'm also an advocate of, don't let anybody just hurt you.
Right.
Do whatever you need to do to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. And hopefully, there's going to be some history. There's going to be some documentation and track record that we tried to rectify this situation early enough or early on before it even got to this point. Mm-hmm. So, as long as my child does that and they say, okay, daddy, okay, and I'll be gauging the temperature. Okay. Did you let the administrator know what's the name of the administrator? Who did you report this information to? I'm going to follow up and say, my daughter is telling me that they've reported this and there's nothing being done. Mm-hmm. I've given them full permission to protect themselves. I don't condone fighting. We don't promote violence. However, this is the guidance.
They have been given permission to defend.
They have been given permission to defend themselves, and so that's where I am with that situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have a suggestion. Any suggestions you all have for a 4-year-old who seriously fears going to public restrooms of any kind? anywhere because of the loud noises, toilets, hand dryers, etc., bursting into tears, screaming, fear. We've tried earphones and didn't work. And so let's look at the root cause. I think that's what you have to discover. But then also I do have a suggestion because I know personally, I know this little girl. And so she doesn't do this in public with me or with our daughter. If our daughter takes her to the public restroom, she's cool and calm. And so with you and your husband, I feel like you need to do a little exposure therapy. So you're going to have to go in. You're going to have to go in more to restrooms and just have her sit there and turn on the dryer, flush the toilet, and just reassure her she's okay, she's safe. It's just a loud noise at the moment. But then on the flip side, and this side, you have to deal with, understand what is her trigger to the loud noise. That's looking at the root cause.
Right.
Is there loud noise in the house? Fighting, the TV, music, are those things startling her? So when she hears those loud noises in public, she's associating those loud noises with that fear. And so a little bit of exposure therapy will help. And what I mean by exposure therapy is just taking her to bathrooms and are dealing with loud noises and then her response to it.
You remember Azariah, the fire alarm used to go off, and that kind of...
Okay, so let's tell that story because, thank you, that's a perfect example. So we were in our townhome in Florida, and this alarm would... The alarm in our home would go off, and he would hold his ears, he would crouch down, and he would cry and he would scream because it would startle us. It was just like tricked by something, and it would startle us, and it was loud, and it terrified him. So every time he heard another alarm, he would have that reaction. And so what we had to do was we had to do exposure therapy. We had to trip an alarm and then just sit and hold him and say, "You're okay. You're safe. Nothing's going to happen. There's no robbers here. There's nobody breaking in our home." And so time after time it would happen. We would slowly start to see the reaction stop. And now if something goes off, he don't even...
Yeah, he's good
He's
now.
good now. And so you just really have to get down to the root cause. And a root for him was he thought somebody was breaking into his home. So we had to secure him into knowing that nobody was breaking into our home. Nobody was going to come and take him. So with her, you're going to have to secure in her that nothing bad is happening from these loud noises.
It was a safety. It was a safety thing for him. Mm-hmm. And so again, that goes back to the training that you have to be able to identify the root of the not just look at the tip of the iceberg, but to really be able to identify what's underneath.
Yeah, because her screaming and holding her ears in fear is the response.
Exactly.
What's the root?
What's the root? And so if you ever, let me help you guys out. Y'all gonna thank me and my wife. If you ever want to find out, or if you ever have a disagreement or an argument with a grown person, a little person, little human, doesn't matter, whoever it is, if you're intentional about finding out what the root cause of what's driving the behavior, you'll be able to identify it and resolve it so much more quickly than you normally would.
Absolutely. So if there's...
At this juncture.
Yeah. So all of our contact information is on page 29. If you've enjoyed this training, if you want to see it again, we're going to do it again probably in another month. We'll have another cycle of the same training, and we're also going to have other installments. But we really want you guys to leave your honest feedback. We need some constructive criticism, feedback, or whatever you want to say about the training, what you've gained, what you've learned, how much you enjoyed it, or if you didn't enjoy it. Let us know that too. And then also, if I don't have your email address and you want a certificate, please let me know at the training, the whole child training at gmail.com. I got to spit it out and let me know that you need a certificate, and I'll get those out to you. But
so again, just to reiterate what my wife is saying, if this training has been beneficial or helpful for you, and you would recommend it for others, we would love to hear comments and feedback. As trainers, our desire is to continuously do this in the future. And so we want to continuously do process improvement. If there's something or subject matters that you guys would be interested in us talking about, leave those comments as well. And then, if you've enjoyed it, just let us know that too. And, refer somebody else to the training as well. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for 2 consecutive Saturdays.
I feel like we should be longer.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, we
We
could
can
talk about
talk
this
about
all day, but
Thank you so much.
please leave some feedback so that we can continuously do better. We want to do this on a bigger level and a better level. And ultimately our end goal is to just help somebody.
Absolutely. Help parents, new parenting, social workers, all of those things. Like I said, feed off of the knowledge and the experiences we have already been through. It would be more helpful for you. You know, I would love to learn from other people's mistakes and experiences so I don't have to necessarily go through them myself. Thank you so much, Victoria. The training has been phenomenal. We have learned so much and we use all of this information every day. We thank you. We are really grateful for that. We appreciate it and look out for your certificates.
And so if you guys have any like my wife stated, if you guys